that as everybody gets on there, but I didn't put my do not disturb. And when a phone call comes in, it crashes my live stream. So that's another problem I run into when doing the live stream. So what I want to talk about is the habit changes I've been making that has just changed, that is beginning to change my life, and it's been a phenomenal month of May. Last time I did a mama chat, just kind of recapping, last time I did a mama chat, I was talking about the fact of doing an elimination diet. So I was having a really hard time with inflammation. My stomach was messing up again with my GERD. My joints were inflamed, that I was having a hard time moving and stuff. So my chiropractor suggested this elimination diet, so I didn't have any grain, any legumes. It's very low glycemic, no dairy, no sugar was the low glycemic, and then I only ate between the hours of 11 and 7 p.m. So I intermittent fasted during that time. So I did kind of okay at the beginning. It was fine. And then what was happening was, and I know this is an issue for me, I actually need carbs because my body will crash. I've got 5 years of YouTube history where I've recorded. It all goes downhill quick without carbs for me. And, my initial was, I've put on a lot of weight. And I wasn't necessarily doing it for the weight loss, but I do need to lose the weight because I'm at an unhealthy level right now. But I really need to deal with my inflammation, my exhaustion, and all of that. So for the 7 days, I did the diet as I needed to do. Oh yeah, back to a disclaimer. I am on my way to the dentist. They've now called again where they said, hurry up and come in. We can get you in to take your time. We're not ready for you yet. But anyway, so I'm making my trip because it does take about 30-40 minutes. But I did the diet, and by the 6th or 7th day, I realized the lack of carbs was starting to mess with me, and I wanted to continue on because the goal was 6 weeks. And I wanted to continue on doing some form of the diet, but I realized if I didn't change it soon, I was going to eat 3 dozen donuts all by myself. I was turning to there, so I was starting to have really kind of negative talk in my mind about handling this issue. So some people might say that's part of the detox. Some might say, yeah, you better figure something out. Find a happy medium so you don't go from one extreme to the other. So that's what I kind of looked for. I will say I noticed a weight drop from the elimination diet, but I wanted to make sure I stay in the fasting and kind of figure out a way to find something more sustainable than what I was doing. But I will tell you this, what I learned. Dairy is my nemesis. Oh my goodness. Dairy is my nemesis, and highly processed food, which I kind of known dairy, and I, there was a breakup happening with me and dairy because since I've turned 40, I don't enjoy a glass of milk. I don't crave a glass of milk. I used to be a big yogurt drinker. I don't drink a yogurt eater. I used to eat tons of yogurt. And in fact, when I started losing weight in my 20s, it came about thanks to yogurt and pudding. Those two were my go-to snacks. I don't eat yogurt anymore. I don't have a desire to eat yogurt. Morning, Compass. I don't eat cheese sticks. So there again, when I lost all my weight doing Weight Watchers the first time, and I'm going to say doing the first Weight Watchers I did in 2002 was by far, I consider, the best Weight Watchers. The method they had was the maybe not the best. I think they evolved a little bit better. But after 07, I'm not really a fan of the way Weight Watchers went, because it wasn't something that really worked for my body. So the big part about it is, in 02, 07, in that time range, they calculated points based on fat, calories, and fiber. So, every 50 grams of calories gave you a point, every 12 grams of fat gave you a point, and every 5 grams of fiber reduced a point. Well, on a gut health issue, that works beautifully for me. They weren't a no fat. They were just like, be conscious, lower fat options. They weren't no fat, just a low fat. But digestively, that was the bomb diggity for me. But then they evolved, and then their other part was you had so many points in a day, and then you had, and when I first started in 02, it was a range, like you had like 18 to 25 points, or essentially your minimum points that you ate for the day plus 5. So you ate this range, and they're like, you can roll them over, and it was confusing. So when they said, here's your daily points and here's your 35 weekly points, like at that point I was like, I felt like they were the creme brulee of their diet working for me. So when I did that, I literally lived off any cheese and dairy product, and I lost weight beautifully doing Weight Watchers. But when they started really tweaking the system is, I would say, where it really encouraged me to develop some really eating issues. The whole notion of free food turned things, and I hate to say this because I feel like with any diet, and this is in my own, I'm not a professional, this is just in my own experience and what I've come to realize, it can give you an eating disorder. It's a fine line. And even when I did Weight Watchers the very first time, and I was very successful with it, and I'm not dogging Weight Watchers, this is keto, this is anything, any diet, it runs a fine line of giving you an eating disorder, because in reality, we want it fast, and I'm not gonna lie, I want it fast. But when I did Weight Watchers for the first time, it opened my eyes to like healthy eating, because I thought eating a bowl of spaghetti was healthy eating, like 3 or 4 portions, I'm being healthy here. And I don't know why that was what I thought. I didn't consider vegetables as like the saving grace of food. Fruits and vegetables to me were not the saving grace of food. That was a garnish. So doing Weight Watchers the first time truly gave me a sense of like what was appropriate eating and what was the, just along those lines. But it began to be a game to me as I really started losing weight. What I found was the more I physically ate, the faster I lost weight, and the healthier I felt. So in doing so, to do that, I ate a lot of snacks. I mean, I would have a cooler. So I got to the point I was going to college, and in my classes and my department that I was in college with, they got really worried about me because they thought I was starving. They thought I'd gone anorexic because I was just starting to drastically lose weight, where they had known me for so many years being very heavy, and then I was slimming down so much. And they're like, are you eating? And I'm like, let me show you what's for lunch today. Let me show you what I'm eating here today. And I would unzip it and I would pull out all of the food, because that became my game. Is I wanted to eat a lot of food. And so I would figure out ways that I could just snack and eat and just enjoy food while staying in my points. And I think number 1, being young was amazing because that helped. Number 2, I was keeping my metabolism really firing and really fueled and constantly burning. So it just like increased the amount I was burning, and I was working out. So it was like just like this win-win happening. Well, I kept that mentality of wanting to eat lots of food, But when they started introducing all these 0 points, what would happen is I've dropped lots of weight very fast because of it. But I would go into this deprivation where, and for me, deprivation is a killer for my psyche, because that goes into habit number 2 that I'm changing, my habitual changing. But it would mess me up into this deprivation where I was literally eating fat-free cottage cheese and chicken breast every day. I wasn't eating fruits and vegetables. Like, I left the fruits and vegetables because I had all these options that were meat and dairy, and really escalated me out of control. So with that said, that's a long story short. I have gone to I'm now on week 4. I think I'm on week 4. I haven't been measuring my stomach. I haven't been measuring my arms. I haven't been measuring everything. I've just been kind of trying to take it intuitively, I would say. So when I stopped the detox elimination diet, I've since mostly kept dairy out of my diet. And I say mostly because I have my slip-ups, and then I hurt so bad the next day. I'm like, haha, you know better. You know not to eat that. Here it is, another confirmation to stay away. So, and even yesterday, last night, yesterday afternoon, I had a little ice cream, and I'm like, and I so wanted to go get a second bowl of ice cream, and I just told, but it's that confirmation of like, if you eat that ice cream, your body is going to hurt. And I'm not talking my gut, I'm talking my elbows and my knees. I'm like, your joints are going to have you so miserable tonight. You are going to be angry that you ate that. So let's just not eat another scoop. And I'm like, okay. And it wasn't so bad. It was controllable. It was manageable. So I have those days where it's not perfect, but I'm trying. And I relapse, and I remind myself, like, we know what causes that. But what I kept was the intermittent fasting. I kept my 11 to 7 meal plan, or my window. But what I decided to do, using the old Weight Watcher method, is to count points during my intermittent fasting. And right there, that's my gold. I found out is I want to stay in check. That before, when I intermittent fasted, I just used that window to eat all day, the whole time. I just constantly ate of anything, and that didn't, or not anything, whatever I was trying to, whatever. But I would eat those things, and I wasn't losing weight. I'm like, well, I don't lose weight intermittent fasting. Hold on, I gotta get past the dump truck. And well, the reality was I was going over my calorie count. So I'm kind of using Weight Watchers, a very old style, just to make sure I don't go over what I should eat. Now, and I only did that for about a week or so, just to get a good feel. So I will say right now, I feel one of my things that is like my non-scale victories, I can go till 1 or 2 o'clock if I need to. If I need to, like, I'm heading to the dentist at 11 o'clock. So here in a little bit would be, I can start eating. Well, I'm not going to eat till after I get done. And then when I talk about habit number 2, I probably won't eat until I get home. So it might be 1 o'clock that I'll eat something small. And it might end up being crackers and hummus. It might not even be anything phenomenal. It might just be something small. But what's been nice is I've been being very intentional about the feeling of full. And this is a personal thing. This is something I keep going back to because I do overeat. I don't come from healthy eating habits, and I come from family that overindulges, generationally overindulges. And so I remember one time I was watching a documentary, and it was talking about the missionaries of the 1800s, right? And the missionary made the comment that, at the table, to get up always a little hungry so you can be mindful of to be mindful of the less fortunate. I feel like that could go into a very new age thing, but just on the aspect of remembering to suffer a little bit when you get up from the table, not because you're suffering for vanity, not because you're suffering for anything else, but to stop before that complete contentness so that you can be reminded to lean on Jesus who suffered and died for us. I know that's kind of like really deep, like what? You're going to think about food that way? But can I tell you, it's been a game changer in my prayer life. As an overeater and as somebody who tends to overindulge, learning to kind of pick at my food and to leave my plate with food on it so I can take a little bit to commemorate, to honor, that I don't need to I don't know, some of y'all are gonna be like, where is the thumbs down? This chick is crazy. But it's just, for me, and my journey has been just, and I'm not gonna tell you every time I'm keeping mind of that, but when I overeat, I'm like, well, you've overindulged to satisfy something that only God can satisfy. Remember you want to leave just with a little bit of like unquenchedness or something, so you're reminded of your hunger for Jesus over food. And that's kind of something I've been talking. So yeah, see, people are leaving, they're like, peace out on this one, Trish, you crazy. But I'm realizing, like, I'm trying to satisfy things of my soul with eating, and I know that, and like I'm realizing like that's part of my issue. So I've been kind of doing that. So keeping myself mindful to have small meals, usually not snacking, but I have had a day or two where I've, gotten to a single serving of potato chips. Not a whole bag of potato chips, just a single serving. So with doing that, over the course of 4 weeks, it'll be 4 weeks on Thursday. Are you ready? I've dropped 15 pounds. I've dropped 15 pounds, and yet not really denied myself anything. Habit number 1 is I started habit number 2, which I haven't even gotten a game changer, because as I was dealing with the diet and the restrictions, I met with somebody. So total God thing, I met with somebody and we got talking. I'm going to tell you. Well, thank you. Yeah, just that thing, like, to think about. Well, what kind of goes hand in hand with my overindulging in food is my overindulging in spending. And quenching a hunger like I do with food, I may also do with spending. And I'm feeling thankful because, like, God is working on somebody else's heart that has the same issue on spending, of just overindulging spending, and she's on that process back and giving me just a chance encounter. We had met for something else, and the conversation came up, and I'm not going to do dollar amounts or anything like this. If you're kind of overspending, at the end, are you not saving? Because I hate to call it the latte effect, but I think the latte effect that what's his name? Dave, money, whatever, I can't think of his name, that he talks about. And I kind of had that, but I had that in a different way. So I'm just going to tell you, I spent a lot of money, but I'll tell you, on the amount of money I spent, I had nothing to show for it. Nothing of quality. And my friend said this most amazing thing to me, and she's like, your money is so powerful and you're not doing powerful things with it. You're doing very dumb things with it. And she goes, you're not spending very smart. And it really got me like, oh. And so she was telling me in her situation is that she's going to a financial counselor, which I would love to go to a financial counselor, but my husband swears we don't need it. I just should stop spending. Is the financial counselor essentially explained to her husband, you're always on her that you don't have money to spend, and the result of that, it causes her to spend more money because you're spending in a place of feeling deprived. And my best analogy of it is, have you ever rescued or seen a rescued cat? Okay, so like you rescue a cat that has starved. And this happens even in people like after hard times and stuff. And they talk about like this is depression issue or famine issue, generational famine issue, which is probably what I'm dealing with. Is when that cat is rescued, they're always so worried that that's their last meal. They eat too much. And that tiny, scrawny cat turns into, a fur puff with feet. They get so fat. And kind of the same thing happens with spending, because you go into this mindset of like, we don't have enough money, so let me spend what I got, what I can, what I need. I need to get everything. And this really got fortified, really strengthened this fear. See, and it's kind of a fear, and I don't mean it to be a fear or a lack of trust. But when I had babies and you're kind of homebound, I couldn't just go to the store without my babies. I had to do my shopping with my children, and I'm talking at the time it'd be like 3 small, tiny little children. And so my goal would be to shop for the week or shop for the month, but it wasn't like shop for the week, hey, I'll run out and get something if I need it. It was like, you cannot go back to the store. You do not have the energy to leave the house again. You get it while you can. And what it created in me over time is a sense of feeling deprived. And I'm not talking like depravity of like groceries, but feeling deprived of a little luxury, at home. And this is a dangerous spot. I mean, postpartum depression, because I had the anxiety. I felt overwhelmed. I was really exhausted. I had these small children. My husband was working 6 to 7 days a week at the time for months on end, keeping everything glued together. I didn't have the support I needed. And I'll say that now. I couldn't have put my finger on it, but then in my postpartum, I don't know if I did have the support that I needed, but I wouldn't let them come around for the anxiety that I was dealing with, the postpartum I was dealing with. I think if I would have had the support I needed and it would have been recognized that I was postpartum, because I'm going to tell you, I wasn't recognized. And every time it got worse. And it didn't recognize until the 6th child. The 6th child, because it became so bad, it finally was recognized for postpartum. And I'm going to tell you, I even went to a doctor for help after the 3rd one. And he's like, you're not depressed. I'm like, I know I'm not depressed. And what it came down was, he didn't know enough to diagnose me with postpartum anxiety. And it was like a 2 a.m. wake up Google search. And I'm like, it's almost like it's not postpartum depression, but it's almost like I have anxiety from postpartum. And I typed in postpartum anxiety, and would you not believe, it literally talked about that this is the most undiagnosed, but just as prevalent as depression, but goes undiagnosed. It's kind of the mean little, sister of depression. And that right there was like, wow, so everybody knew I wasn't depressed, but I couldn't get off my couch. I was happy or content, but I couldn't move just about. Everything was so utterly exhausting. And so people, I don't know, they just couldn't figure out how to help me, or they didn't even realize I needed the help. So with that, I created this thing of, morning, Catherine. I created this thing where I might need something. So when I'd go to the grocery store, I might need something. And my husband has been very big on like, don't spend money. Don't buy that. That's a waste. He's constantly showing me or putting it to me on his opinion, what is a waste of money and I'm spending too much. During that time, I got my money kind of under control, because that was in 2008 when we were spending way too much money. Or not too much money, we just didn't have money to spend because, the economy dropped. And that happened. I was able to get under control, but I had to work with him on using cash. I wanted to use cash, and he's been very big on, you need to use a credit card so I can see where you spent your money. And back then I kind of said something to him. I'm like, hey, do you only want me? I think at that time, and I can't do that now, but I was only spending, I think, $250 a week. Or not a week. Maybe, or every 2 weeks or something like that. Like, it was ridiculously low. And I'm like, it was low for us having 3 children, 2 in diapers, for what we were having to do. And I just kind of told him, I said, leave me alone. You can't track what I spend, but you can give me the cash, and that's all I spend. So which would you rather have? Well, now fast forward 10 plus years later, and my spending has kind of moved forward and stuff. I've kind of put myself on a spending diet, and I'm having to track what I spend. And I use just this little Dollar Tree booklet. It fits in my wallet, and I'm in the mindset. I know what my running average high spending is, and my goal is to try and break it in half. And I think about that per day. And then at the end of the week, I size up, did it work? Because, sometimes you're going to spend more than you need to. And I keep thinking in the back of my mind, my friend saying how powerful my money is, and how I'm kind of spending it stupidly, and I need to spend it smart, and not to just have nothing to show for it. So some of what I was kind of already doing beforehand was I stopped buying groceries at Walmart. And I stopped buying groceries at Walmart because when I went to Walmart, I didn't just buy groceries. I would buy everything else. And I would walk there and I'd spend an hour plus